I look at employee development and career management. It is a lifelong process of learning. And it's something that once you all graduate college, or for those of you who are already out in the workplace, can attest to, learning does not stop once you graduate from college. When you go out and get a job, that company is looking at you for who you are right now, but also who you could be and the impact you could potentially have on their company. Well, when they bring you in, they're not just going to say, okay, here's so and so, this is what he can do. They're going to say, well, this is what we would like him to do down the road, and I think he has that potential. And in order to reach that potential, they're going to give you opportunities, provide you development opportunities in which to grow, and we'll talk about some of those this week. And we'll also talk about just the career management and how you can go about becoming the best employee you can be and how you can become an asset to a particular company. We've spent the majority of this semester talking about training. Now, let's look at development and let's see how they compare. With training, the focus is on the current. You are preparing for that current job. You have to be actively involved in that training, compared to development, which is you're looking towards the future. You're developing skills for the future. You're going to use your work experience. That's important in there. And you are preparing for changes. You are developing so that you can become a successful manager, CEO, whatever it may be. And this is also voluntary, meaning that you do not have to take part in development. And in fact, many people are quite comfortable in their position and have no desire to move up the ladder, so to speak, and don't necessarily want to further develop their skills and move up the hierarchy of that company. So why would companies want to invest in employee development? Well, the biggest reason is to improve the quality of the company. Obviously, the more skills and abilities their employees have, the more their company can do, and the more successful their company should be because they have more talented individuals. It's always important to continue to build that talent. Going back to sports, usually the teams that are the most successful, let's take the NFL, there are certain teams such as the Green Bay Packers who do not go out and sign free agents. They develop their own players, and the whole idea is as you develop these players, your team will get better. Same works for a company. You bring in these individuals out of college, you develop them, and you end up with a great company with excellent employees, and also you have employees that are loyal. Most employees want to grow and want to have a career, not just a job. And to make this happen, you have to give them opportunities to develop and grow. And by doing this, you're going to keep those employees. You're going to have less retention because employees are going to be happy and feel valued being part of this. From an employee perspective, not only do you have that value, not only do you feel like you're making a name for yourself, you're taking a career, you also realize that in order to be successful, you have to continue learning and continue to grow. I'm sure if I talk to the master's students, most of them are teachers, they could tell me how much they have learned since they've been on the job. How many changes have occurred in education that they've had to learn and they've had to read about. I know there's meetings all the time at the high school, middle school that talk about, okay, these are the changes that are occurring, and these are how we are going to have to deal with them. And they'll have professional days where they can actually grow as individuals as well. So it's beneficial for both parties involved to be focused on the development of employees and also the career management of those. Now, it involves numerous people, and that can become cumbersome at times when you have managers involved and you have employees involved, carving out that time to ensure that everybody gets adequate training, development that they need to be successful. An example of this is the development planning process. And as you can see, this is a sample where there are 4 different steps in the process, and there is a responsibility not only for the employee but also the company. So you start off with a self-assessment where The employees determine their career interests, values, aptitudes, some of their tendencies, and the company can provide assessment information, to identify strengths, weaknesses, interests, and values. From there, you go to the reality check, which is what it does. It allows employees to receive information from the company, if they've been evaluated, and the company can tell them what their skills and knowledges are and where they fit into the company, and also the employee can identify what needs are realistic to develop. From there, you go to the goal setting, where you actually identify different goals and methods, how you're going to get to that, and you work with the company to ensure that those goals are appropriate for that. And then you have your action plan, where you identify the steps and your timetable to actually reach that. We're going to be doing a mini one of these for your assignment this week, and it'll be kind of interesting to see what type of self-assessment, reality check, goal setting, and action plan that you intend to take for your life. There are a few different approaches a company can take towards employee development. We're going to touch on each one of those. We're going to look at formal education, assessment, job experiences, and developing interpersonal relationships. Formal education can be conducted either on-site or off-site. In on-site situations, it's usually somebody in-house, somebody within the company that will provide the development. They can also bring in consultants as well, who are experts in a particular area, and have them work on the employee development. The good thing about on-site formal education is that it is going to align directly with the company and with the goals that those company has set forth. With off-site formal education, there are more options available. That's where you have such opportunities as taking classes at universities. You have online programs. You have executive MBA programs. And to facilitate this and build this, you have tuition reimbursement. Now, if we were in a face-to-face class, this is where I'd ask everybody who plans on taking classes once they get into the workplace. And it is a good tool, and it is nice that a lot of companies will pay for you to take classes. They will reimburse you for that. I think it is a great way to improve your knowledge. I know most of our master's students in this course already are teaching in the field, and they're going back to get their master's degree. The executive MBA program is really interesting because it's a trend we're starting to see more and more of, and we've talked about it here at MBA or at Emporia State. And the whole idea is you create an MBA program designed specifically for executives. And how it works is you have a cohort of, let's say, 20 executives, and they go through the MBA program together. And the good thing about doing this is that you get to discuss issues, and you get their experiences, which is really nice, so that you can grow from this. Now, it's not cheap, and I know for us at Emporia State, when we were looking at it, most companies will pay for this. Most companies are going to be paying for their executives to go to this. Now, obviously, there's a time commitment for the executives, but the company is going to pay for this. So they're going to be very selective about who they would send to these programs. Next, we have assessments, and this is always a difficult subject because nobody really likes being critiqued or having their faults identified. But with assessment, what you can do is companies can collect information and provide feedback about their behavior, communication style, values, or skills. So there are a few different assessment methods available. There's personality tests and the golden standard, and that is the Myers-Briggs type indicator. You also have inventory tests. Both those are kind of used to identify potential managers and people who could be leaders and who could shine in a role, and also gives the company a better understanding of their employees. There are performance appraisals, and hopefully in any job you're in, you get that performance appraisal, and you get an idea to get some feedback about what you're doing well and what you're not doing. They'll probably set some benchmarks for you to meet, and that's a good assessment tool to determine whether or not you are meeting those benchmarks. They do have assessment centers where you can go to, and they will assess your different skills and try to determine what is the best fit for you. The whole point with all these assessments is really to identify the stars. What they're trying to do is identify those people that have the potential to be managers and have the potential to move up in the company. And the last one is the 360-degree feedback system. Here's a diagram of that, and obviously you can tell it's going to be time consuming, but I think it's a great tool to truly get the holistic view of that employee when you get feedback from their peers, from their manager, from customers, from subordinates. And obviously it's going to be different in each situation, but you do get a true understanding of that individual, and you get a good analysis of that individual, where they can improve, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are. Now obviously this would be difficult for most people who are in that middle, who are getting this feedback, to take it constructively and build from it. But it is a great idea to get all these different perspectives when you are conducting assessment. Next, we have job experiences. And the whole idea behind using job experiences as a development tool is that most of the experiences we face are on the job. So why not add a development component to that? And there are a few different options available to do that. We can have job enlargement, which you get new challenges or responsibilities, and the whole idea to see how do they maybe handle that stress, or how do they handle these new roles. And it can give a good idea of the potential of an employee. We can also try job rotation, where you try a few different jobs and you get the employee gets a better understanding of the company, and he develops that way by seeing a different perspective of the company. It's a more holistic view of the company. You can also transfer to another assignment or a different area. As you progress up the ladder, the more knowledge you have in different areas, the better off you're going to be, and the better you're going to be able to understand the issues that arise. And if you have a good understanding of that, maybe you do get promoted. And with promotion, you take on a new job, and there are greater challenges and responsibility, and usually more authority comes with that. I always thought the higher up the chain you go, usually the more stress you have and the more hours you work. Now, other options include a downward move, in which you take a reduced level of responsibility and authority. And there could be reasons for that. It could be your performance, but also it could be because they really want you to focus on a few specific tasks. Or you can step outside and do some temporary assignments, projects, or volunteer work, just to get a different perspective and to develop that way. Our last option for employee development is interpersonal relationships. And the whole idea is that you are going to learn from someone who has been in that company for a while. So when you get out of college and you start your first job, they're going to probably pair you up with either a mentor or a coach. And the whole idea is this is somebody you can go to for help and assistance. If you're struggling, you can go to them and say, what do I need to do to be successful? So with a mentor, this is somebody who's experienced. It's usually a senior employee, and they're going to work with someone who is less experienced, someone out of college, someone new to the company. And the whole point is that they are supposed to support you and provide just support as you're going through the process. And they're going to hopefully help you develop some interpersonal skills and just be there when you need that assistance. They should help you meet new people and socialize with those. As we all know, when you go to a new company, the more people you know, the more socializing or networking you do can only benefit you. So it's important that mentor take you under their wing and introduce you to everybody and walk you around. And in doing so, they'll get to know you better, and they can be there to speak on your behalf. I know here at Emporia State, when we started, every new faculty is given a mentor, and you're supposed to be able to go to that mentor if you have questions, issues, and they should know what needs to be done and how to handle those situations. Another option is to have a coach, and the coach is there to kind of motivate you, again, to help you develop your skills and provide reinforcement and feedback. The whole idea with the coach is that they support you and they give you positive and negative reinforcement depending on what you need, and also give you feedback. The last topic I want to talk about is succession planning, or the idea that a company needs to identify their top talent or their high potential employees. And the whole idea behind this is that when you bring in employees, you want to be able to identify those who you believe are going to be your top performers or game changers, and do everything you can to develop them, because those are going to eventually be the leaders of your company. At the same time, you want to ensure that they have the skills to proceed along those lines, and that they're not going to want to leave your company. So you need to make sure and keep them happy, which brings up an interesting point with this, and the idea of, should employees be aware of this? You guys are going to get the opportunity to answer that in your assignment this week, but I think it is a very interesting topic. If you were in this program, would you want to be aware of it? Would you want to know if you were in this program? Why wouldn't you want to know about it? Or why wouldn't a company want to tell their employees about it? At the same time, if you were an employee within the company and you were not in this program, would you want to know about the people that are in it? Or would you want to know that you are not in that program? So I think it's an interesting situation. I think it's for a company, obviously there are a lot of benefits to identify those who you believe are going to be your future, and ensuring that they have the skills to succeed. At the same time, it's an interesting question of whether or not that should be common knowledge among the company. When we think about development and career management, it's really similar to training in that you need to develop strategies that can be individualized. The learner has control, and there is ongoing support. When you go work for a company, the learning process does not end. You're going to continuously learn new information. I was talking to my brother-in-law who is going into the medical profession, and he was saying how even if he doesn't want to continue doing research once he is actually practicing, you have to keep up to date on the research because it is changing so much. So he can't simply say, okay, I'm a doctor now, I don't have to read any more research. It's going to be a never-ending process where whatever job you take, you're going to be learning, you're going to be reading and trying to gain as much knowledge as you can, if nothing else, for your success. The more knowledge you have, the more successful you can be. The more development you can take on, the better you're going to be. It's an opportunity for you to grow once you enter the workplace, and I definitely think it is beneficial for both the employee and the employer.